So today's going to be a really fun little play with some new paper material that I got recently from Fabriano. This is Sea Toned Paper. It's only about sort of 15% cotton, and it's pretty thin, but it's fine for a little bit like cartridge paper. It's absolutely fine for drawing and line work. You wouldn't want to necessarily get it too wet with media like watercolor. So because this acts as a mid-tone, effectively, what you can do is you can use white to create highlights, and you can use black to create lowlights. So the paper actually, as a sort of media, sits in the middle rather than it sitting on the light end like white paper does, or black paper would be the dark shadows, if you know what I mean. So what I've decided to do here is I'm going to create some small figures, draw some small figures. So I'm creating a grid where I can put those figures within that, and that is partly just, I don't have to do that, I could just draw a rough line on the paper.
You want me to draw you a heart?
Sketch that in.
Yeah. Where do you want me to draw you? Where? Do you want me to draw it?
Teeny tiny over there.
Just there?
Yeah, teeny tiny.
A teeny tiny one. And that's for David, is it?
So once I've sketched in roughly where I want the figures to be, I can go and just sort of create them really there. Now what I've done here is I've created the line, which is a sort of about an eighth for the head, and then I know that the rest of the figure, the proportion, is the body, if you know what I mean. So you've got a head depth, and then you've got like a body depth. I don't have to do that necessarily. And then what I've done is I have gone onto my tablet and I have just searched for small figures, or and I found some images that just have multiple figures on them. If you search, go on Google Images and just look up for many figures or small figures or something. There'll be drawing poses or anything like that. You should be able to come up with these people. The reason why I haven't included that material in here is so there is a variety of different poses. Some people are stood, some people are sort of moving, walking, and then some of these are just basically fallen out my head. They're just a little bit of my imagination. Now, people with keen eyes will have spotted that I've left off some of the detail on the left-hand side of the first figure, and that's because what I sort of realised as I was sketching these is what I could do is I could do the highlights, if you know what I mean, the light lines, with my white fine liner. Now that's a Sakura gel pen. There's lots of different sizes you can get. I think there's a 6, an 8 and a 10. Personally, I like the 10. It seems to flow better. The other smaller ones I've often had problems with flow and them getting bunged up or whatever. I like this particular woman here. She looks like a fierce sort of farmer's wife. Now, alternative to the Sakura white gel pens, you can use whiteout or bleed-proof white, and then use, which is basically like a sort of liquid gouache white paint. But it's in quite a fine liquid form. You can actually dilute it to the point of where it's like a white ink, and then you can use a dip pen or something like that to create your white lines, which is quite useful. So basically what I'm doing here is my normal sort of drawing technique, which is slightly continuous liney, if you know what I mean, where I try and keep the nib on the paper as much as I can, but often with these little daft sketches it's just a bit of an improv really. So I don't know what that guy is there. He looks like he's maybe fixing the potholes in the road. We've got some interesting characters here. There's a chap above this one here. He looks like he's hailing a taxi. This guy is about to either scrum down or maybe he's a fisherman. I don't know. He's on. Oh, it's a milk churn. There's that measurement there, an eighth for the head size. You can see I've written that down there, and we've got all sorts of interesting characters here, sort of ne'er-do-wells. There's some quite. I think she's wearing some kind of fur coat. She's quite charming. Yeah. So I'm obviously rubbing out the guidelines here, and then I'm going to be using another new thing that I've just been playing with, and that's some water-soluble graphite pencils. Now these are from Faber Castell, and I'm just going to have a bit of a play with these. They come in, I think there's 4 different weights. This is the 8B, I think. This is the very dark one. So what I'm doing here is I'm just filling in a little bit of dark area, and then a little bit of the shadows, and then I'm using a little bit of water on top of the pencil, and of course they're water soluble, so the pencil will just turn into effectively like a grey ink or a darker ink. So that top one is 8B. I'm using the 4B here. I'm just experimenting with the different, it's actually, well, it's actually not actually that different really. And then I think I'll use the 2B here, so I can just get a feel for the difference in those, the strength of those. Oh, that does look quite a bit lighter. So what I haven't done here is I obviously haven't recorded some of the highlights that I put in. And you can see the light primarily is coming from the top left. So what I've done is on the figures is I've tried to capture the light from the top left there, like a sort of rim light almost. That dog's quite an interesting form. So you can see with the coloured pencils there the different grades and how that works out once they've been saturated. So this blue tone paper is quite cool. I mean, I've had some other playing with it. This was obviously an angle poised lamp. This is a little portrait of my son, which it kind of looks a bit like him. But it was more the idea of the sort of techniques, the lights and the shadows. I think it worked quite well.
I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun playing with lots of new materials at once, doing little figures. So yeah, I'll see you again. Bye bye.